got a lot of stuff on websites now, so it's not like if you don't see the paper, you're done. All you have to do is access Forest Service website, and then there's what they call a schedule of proposed actions that we update quarterly. You can see what's coming. Exactly.
Until then.
Right. Exactly. But the I lost my train of thought. But yeah, I mean, it'll be when we go through plan revision, it'll be a highly collaborative effort, and it's designed to have public interaction.
Who with the Forest Service actually makes this decision? It's not the rangers; they don't get to vote.
No, the forest supervisor does, and that's me.
And that's you.
That's the.
So you decided to lease this area to put this out for lease yourself.
My job is basically to implement the forest plan. The forest plan identifies acres available for leases. Now again, on an annual basis, I update a consent to lease for the BLM on a number of acres. I mean, I can't remember what it is on an annual basis, a couple 100,000 acres basically. And they can do what they want with it. They can either not lease it if they're not looking for anything. If they've got enough to offer for lease, they don't have to do it. Now, if they have a request from industry, then they're likely to put that request. They give me that request, and then I look at it, make sure nothing's changed. Let's say.
Did that happen in this instance or not?
In this for the Talladega?
For the 43,000 acres?
For the 43,000 acres, that was one of those on an annual basis. I just said, here's acres to lease. I just picked it off of the 500,000 odd acres that are held.
You ever been to the Lake Cheney campground yourself?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And you picked that to be right in the middle of this map.
Now, again, we have acres that are available for lease. I pick those acres and I put them on. And we do all that stuff. And oil and gas development is just one of those many things we do. And we have got rules and regulations to govern.
But it hasn't occurred yet in this forest, is that right? Are there any leases anywhere in the Talladega National Forest?
On the Talladega and Shoal Creek, we have no active leases. On the Mulgee, we do have active leases. That's over there by Tuscaloosa. We do have active leases on the Conecuh. There's 3 active wells on the Conecuh. They're oil wells, and that's it.
But they're not. It's no fracking. It's just an oil well.
Yes, sir, yeah. So,
any other natural gas wells?
We don't have a natural gas well.
Every so many years, you have to open up the leases. Is that right?
The leases, when they do get offered, if somebody were to buy a lease, they're good for 10 years. 10 years.
And that would give them right to explore in that national
forest. Explore and develop in that 10-year period.
And what are you going to do when they start building pipelines on those roads built during by the Civilian Conservation Corps?
We do an environmental assessment, and we make sure that there's going to be no adverse impact to national forest lands. And the public, again, will have a chance to comment during that period.
Well, we're all against it, so let's just kill it. Let's kill it right now.
I understand.
I camp at that Lake Cheney campground a lot. I camp all over up in there, Pine Glen. Lately, I've been going to that Canoe Creek because they got Wi-Fi right on the edge there on the private land. But
well, it's a beautiful forest. Trust me, I recognize that.
And so we really don't need a bunch of fracking crews in there.
I understand.
And I'm editorially against this. We're going to be working every way possible to stop it.
No, I understand. But again, there's federal laws in place that result in us doing these things.
There's also federal laws that give them that say they don't have to, if they screw it up, they don't have to pay. The Halliburton loophole. You heard about that, right?
That's again, you check the BLM.
No, but you need to be educated about that. If you're the forest manager.
But I manage national forest land.
That's right.
They manage
this is information. The Clean Water Act exempt.
They're exempt from the Clean Water Act because of the Halliburton exemption. If they come in there and screw it up, we can't even make them clean it up, man. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
That's not information that I...
No, but it is information you need. I would think, if you're the man here making the decision to put this out for lease because of the law, there's other aspects of the law you need to understand. Public leases are cheaper, and they can side drill. This is happening all over the country. They side drill under people's property and steal their minerals. Lawsuits going on all over the country about this.
I live in the country too.
Okay, so we're never going to.
So are you? Am I understanding this right? I mean, I've reported a lot about this, and we're just asking questions over there. They said come ask you. So am I understanding right that the Forest Service really is the first one that made a decision to offer the area for leases?
Right, because the Forest Service, they are the surface management agency. They give us the consent to lease. We are the actual leasing agent for the federal government.
Right, and so, but I haven't heretofore understood that this was an industry-driven process, that there had to be some industry interested in this area before there was ever even a lease considered.
No, in order to put parcels.
Well, that's what the National Bureau of Land Management spokesperson told me, that it's industry-driven.
To put parcels on a lease sale is 3 ways they can do it. It can be through a special interest, which is industry-driven. It can be a pre-sale offer, which could be industry-driven, and then a bureau motion, which is basically agency-driven, either by BLM.
What was it in this case?
This was actually agency-driven by the Forest Service.
Okay, it's the first I've learned of that, because that's not what anybody has told anybody. So it seemed to be saying that if there was specific protests about specific areas that are offered for lease, like the Lake Chenobee campground, you would remove it from the lease? Is that what you're saying?
What do you mean? Can you repeat?
You were just telling them that if there's a protest about a specific area that's in the map on the lease, you might consider removing that from the sale.
Well, yeah, if you look at this, and then we'll look at it, and if it's something of merit, we could consider it to be, that parcel to be removed from the sale.
You're talking about historical value and endangered species, or...
I mean, if somebody raises a question that we had never addressed before, like, hey, this is in a nesting ground, something like that, we may go to the Forest Service, like, okay, so-and-so is saying this, what do you want to do? And then if they say, okay, it's okay, we may want to go ahead and remove that parcel. Or they was like, okay, it's not, go ahead, BLM.
Well, to start with, we're going to stop the whole thing, so y'all don't have to worry about it. But in the meantime, let's get the Lake Chenobee campground out of the map. That's my editorial comment about that.
That's what I want to do. And the bacon also.
Yeah. Can I ask you something about this? Somebody was telling me I need to ask you about this because of the Talladega section, something about the rock there, and tell me about that.
Okay. Well, Talladega, if you look at this outline here, is all within the Piedmont region, physiographic region, except for a little bit right up here, it's in the other region.
Right.
And this is a blow-up of that. It just doesn't have the physiographic line on it. In this Piedmont region, these different colors represent the different rocks. And you've got basically 3 types of rocks. You've got sedimentary rocks, that's pretty much like along the Gulf Coast plain.
Right.
And that's where most of the conventional oil and gas occurs in there. This is made up at the surface of igneous and metamorphic rock, which is extremely hard, dense rock that's formed under high temperature and pressure. And during the formation of that, because of the high temperature and pressure, it cooked off any hydrocarbons that might have been there at one time, but when they were formed, so there's no potential in igneous and metamorphic rock for oil and gas production now we don't know definitively how thick that is, but we believe it to be more than 10,000 feet thick. So if anybody's going to drill there, they would have to drill through at least that much of extremely dense hard rock that will probably tear up drill bits to get to something that they don't even know what's down there.
Right.
So that's, from a geology standpoint, the potential would be extremely low for.
Did they not?
Basically, what we're saying.
Shouldn't the Forest Service and the BLM have consulted your agency about what's there before they put something out for lease?
It's their property.
But I mean, if you're being smart about it, wouldn't you do that? You think? Instead of causing a big public uproar and getting a lawsuit going.
I don't know. Between 2 parties, whoever owns the mineral and who wants to lease the mineral, and typically they would be. There would be some type of an agreement in that lease as to what royalties, what percent royalties would be paid if it ever produced.
Right.
But then there's also typically what they call bonus money that's paid up front per acre, and
that goes in the federal treasury.
That goes in the federal treasury, and that would be regardless of whether everybody even put a drill bit there.
Right. So there's a little money for the federal treasury there, maybe, but it's no comfort to the people that live there, worried about their water, and if what you're saying is accurate, even if they try to drill, they're not going to get anything anyway. So why put everybody through this? I guess is my question.
Well, it's not for me to try to answer. Our purpose here was to try to educate and say, okay, here's where the national forests are. Here's where the oil and gas development is from a geologic standpoint. This may have low potential. This may have higher potential.
So which one has the higher potential here?
It would be the Connecticut County down here in South Alabama, along the Florida line. In fact, in this,
there's already some drilling.
There's already some drilling here. There's active wells. There's been some plugged wells around here.
Aren't those oil wells though, and not gas wells?
That are, and they're at 13,000 feet. And these wells down here are considered conventional oil and gas wells, and they do not require hydraulic fracturing for the oil to flow. So, and it's there's impermeable zones that separate the producing zone. The wells meet our standards and requirements for casing and cementing to isolate groundwater, so it doesn't get contaminated.
So there's been no problems with any of those leaking, or the pipelines are no problem? There've been no problems with that?
This area right here is coal bed methane.
Around Tuscaloosa or somewhere?
Yeah, basically between Tuscaloosa and Birmingham.
Right.
And they are principally what is being fracked in Alabama.
So there's already fracking going on?
We have permitted multiple coal zones to be fracked in over 7,500 wells, coal bed wells, and we've not had
any
a single contamination problem in 30 years.